Today, we're diving into something pretty incredible. It's an invisible, totally automatic system that is working right now to keep you alive and stable. We're talking about your body's master balancing act, homeostasis. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? You drink a huge bottle of water, you eat a donut, you walk out of a warm building into the freezing cold. Your body is constantly getting hit with changes from the outside world and from your own actions. So, how does it do it? How does it keep your internal world, your temperature, your blood sugar, all of it, within that super narrow range that's required for you to live? Well, that's the big question we're tackling today. And it really is a constant battle. Your body's internal environment is always being pushed and pulled. The goal isn't to be perfectly still, but to maintain what's called a dynamic equilibrium, a stable state that is, and this is no exaggeration, the absolute foundation of your health. And the name for this amazing ability is homeostasis. It's a cool word, right? It actually comes from two Greek words, homoios, which means similar, and histemi, which means standing still. So it literally translates to staying similar. It's this self-regulating process that makes sure all those vital internal conditions stay right where they need to be. Honestly, it's the reason you're alive and functioning right now. Okay, so how does your body actually pull this off? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like a really, really smart internal thermostat. It's this built-in control system that is always on, always sensing, and always ready to make tiny adjustments to keep everything just right. And here's the really cool part. At its core, this whole thing is a simple three-step process. First, you've got a receptor. Think of it as a sensor that detects a change, say your skin getting cold. Second, that sensor sends an alert to a control center, which is usually in your brain. The brain then compares that new information to its ideal setting. And third, the control center orders an effector, like a muscle or a gland, to take action and fix the problem. So it's detect, decide, and act. That simple loop is happening all over your body, all the time, without you even noticing. Now, that action part of the system, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. The body uses two very different strategies, or what we call feedback loops. You can think of these as the body's two main operating modes for staying in control. Okay, this is so important to get. The vast, vast majority of what your body does for homeostasis relies on negative feedback. This is your body's cruise control. Its whole job is to reverse a change. If you get too hot, it works to cool you down. It's all about creating stability. But then on the other hand, you have positive feedback, which is way, way rarer. This is like the body's turbo boost. It doesn't reverse a change, it amplifies it, pushing it further and further to get to a specific end goal. All right, enough with the theory. Let's make this real. Let's look at a couple of examples of how this is all playing out inside you probably right now. So let's start with a classic, most relatable example of negative feedback, thermoregulation. That's just a fancy word for how your body controls its temperature. It's the perfect example of a stability loop. And this just shows that push and pull perfectly. Deep in your brain, your hypothalamus acts as that thermostat we talked about. If your body's receptors sense your temperature is creeping up, it kicks into action to cool you down. Your blood vessels get wider to release heat and you start to sweat. But if you get too cold, the exact opposite happens. Blood vessels constrict to keep heat in, and your muscles start to shiver to generate more warmth. See? The response always counteracts the change to get you back to that stable 98.6 degrees. That is negative feedback in a nutshell. All right, now for something completely different. Let's look at one of the most powerful and rare examples of a positive feedback loop: childbirth. This has nothing to do with stability. It's all about a controlled, dramatic escalation towards one single event. It all kicks off with one stimulus. The baby's head starts to push against the cervix. This creates pressure, and receptors there send a signal straight up to the brain. And this is where things get interesting. Instead of trying to reduce that pressure, the brain does the opposite. It hits the gas pedal. It releases the hormone oxytocin, which then travels right to the uterus, which then causes even stronger contractions. Of course, this pushes the baby's head harder against the cervix, creating more pressure, which signals for more oxytocin, which creates even stronger contractions. It's this powerful escalating loop that gets more and more intense until, finally, the baby is born and the loop is broken. A perfect and pretty dramatic example of positive feedback. So we have these incredible systems of control, from these gentle little balancing acts to these wild escalations. But what's the big picture? Why does all of this matter so much? Well, to put it simply, homeostasis is health. Every single system in your body, from your brain cells to your digestive enzymes, is built to work in a very specific, very narrow range of conditions. Homeostasis is what keeps those conditions perfect. When that delicate balance is lost, when homeostasis fails, the result is illness and disease. So, if you want to understand how our bodies work and what happens when they don't, you have to understand this constant, invisible balancing act. So the next time you feel yourself shiver when it's cold, or you feel thirsty after a workout, just remember what's really going on. That's your body, perfectly executing this ancient, silent, and absolutely essential dance. It's the secret that keeps you alive. And pretty much every illness, when you get right down to it, is just the story of what happens when that secret gets out.